colors do you have in your palette? Are they the colors you'd recommend to a friend? I'm Lynda Norman. I'm a watercolor artist in British Columbia, and today I want to explore a little bit about the things that become our comfort and how when we step out of that, that changes. And we'll look at what does happen when you step out of your comfort zone. So the other day, someone posed a question to me, a simple question: what colors are in my palette? I often share that I use a palette that I've put together from the suggestions of Michael Soloviev, who's a watercolor artist I admire greatly, and did a workshop with him, and those were the colors that he recommended. And they were great for that workshop. I really appreciated having those colors at my disposal. But when I thought about how I would answer that question, I wasn't comfortable with recommending all of the colors that I had already sitting in my palette. I sat down, took a look at them all, I tested them, took a look at, were they colors that I really wanted to use in my daily practice? And honestly, there were several that just sat there, drying up and never used. So the beauty thing about my solo palette, eco palette, is that these little pans do come out. So I have two palettes. One is the basis of the Michael Soloviev palette that I've put together for that workshop. And this is my palette. This is the palette that I always use. And I was actually quite stunned to acknowledge that there were only a couple of colors there that I used. And often I would get up, I would go over to my wall where I have all my colors on hooks or on clips on a pegboard, so that I could pick a different color for a little accent or a little bit of blending that I wanted to use. One example is my buff titanium, and I'm going to find a spot for that in my palette, I think, at some point, because I'm loving using that. But these little pans can be ordered separately. They're lovely. The palettes actually have a little magnet in them, and one on top too. So you could even set a couple of pans if you needed to fill them. And actually, I might just do that. Fill one with a buff titanium, and then put it on my palette like that when I want to use it. But I took out 5 colors. One was one that I recently added. I'd heard a lot of buzz about the Winsor Newton Ultramarine Ash, I think it's called. And so it's made from the grindings, I believe, of the lapis lazuli mineral gem. I don't know. I guess it's a gem. Anyway, I was excited to use it, but it doesn't. It's beautiful. It just doesn't fit with my palette because I use the more intense colors. I like the richer, deeper colors, and this is a very soft, ethereal kind of color. So it might be great for people who paint florals, that kind of thing. So I took that out, set it aside. The other colors that I removed were, I had an indanthrone blue next to my Mayan blue, which I would never change out my Mayan dark blue. That's my favorite. But the indanthrone blue for me was a bit on the bright side. And I often found myself, when I was not really paying a lot of attention, I would dip my brush into that one instead of my Mayan blue and touch it to my page, and then I would have this awkward situation with this bright color showing through that I wasn't always happy with. And so I took out the indanthrone blue and I replaced it with a French ultramarine. The French ultramarine is an amazing color. It's great for skies. It's a beautiful light, bright blue. But if you mix that with your quinacridone rose, it gives you the most incredible purple. So there's really, I think, a value to having that in my palette. I'm starting now to appreciate more of the lighter blues. The Mayan dark blue is great for my skies, the moody skies, but the French ultramarine is going to brighten up those skies and bring more life to some of my summer and spring landscapes. So I'm looking forward to that. So I've added that. I took out. What color did I have in? Oh, this is where I had that Winsor Newton color. I wanted a brighter yellow, And so I tested some yellows. I've got New Gamboge, I've got Hansa Yellow Light, but they all tended to have that kind of orangey undertone to them. And I've already got my quinacridone gold, which gives me that if I provide it in a thicker quantity. I've also got my Aussie Red Gold that is a very beautiful orange color. So I, through the process of elimination, came up with the Nickel Azo Yellow. It's a nice bright yellow. It's going to give me that color that I want when I want to highlight leaves in trees and sunlight on grasses and that kind of thing. So the Nickel Azo Yellow has a place in my palette now. And then the other thing that I put into this particular palette is one of the Daniel Smith, gosh, now my brain is gone. It's called Serpentine Genuine. So it's the Primateks, that's the word I'm looking for. Primateks or Primateks series, where the pigments are enhanced and made with beautiful minerals and they're just gorgeous. And it's a brighter a brighter green. It goes really well with my undersea green that it's, one of the colors that I absolutely wouldn't be without. So that's how I changed things up for this one. I left the other colors that are there. I've got my Mayan dark blue, my French ultramarine blue, undersea green. This one was sepia. I took that out. I don't paint with a lot of the brown tones when I'm painting with a brush. Often I will use it with one of my grays or dark blues when I'm doing a two-tone, if I'm doing it on canvas, straight from the tube. But from the brush, I didn't find it was a valuable tool or a pigment for me. If I'm doing, beautiful tree branches with my lovely Lebanson brush with this point, I often will do a mixture of my Mayan dark blue, because that's generally a color that I have in my painting, mixed with a little bit of perhaps the Aussie Red Gold or the green, or just mix a couple of colors just to get a dark. It doesn't have to be specific, as long as I feel as long as it's mixed with colors that I'm using in a painting, that dark is going to work just fine. So the sepia went, and I put in a sienna color. So it's a more orange. So I've got some orangey yellows and some brighter yellows just to brighten up those landscape paintings of mine. On the side here, I bought a tube of Opera Pink because I was doing some florals, testing them out. So I just put a dab of it here. It's not a color that I generally use either. And then this one was the Michael Soloviev palette, and I kept some of the colors because they really are beautiful and useful. And there's neutral tint, which comes in handy when you're mixing colors. Often you want to just sort of tone things down a bit. So I kept that in. I actually, for some reason, I had it in both palettes, and that was kind of redundant. And then Lunar Blue. Lunar Blue is a beautiful, deep blue. It's a different tone than the Mayan dark blue, and we'll look at those compared side by side in a few moments. And then a cobalt blue, again another bright blue. It's a different tone than the French ultramarine, so you can change things up. Some are warm tones, some are cool tones. Then we have, I'm going to have to check this one out. Oh, this is a phthalo blue green shade. I left that in, the phthalo blue green shade and the phthalo green blue shade, because I wanted to have that option sometimes for water and the underside of leaves when you want just an indication where the light is hitting at a different level. You get this different shade with them, and it's kind of pretty. So I left those in the palette. Those are probably ones that I wouldn't use a lot, but they're there when I need them. And then sap green, which is again another level of green. It's a brighter green, and it's something that I'm starting to use a lot more of in my landscapes as well. Moon Glow is, I had it in both palettes, and I took it out of that one and replaced it with the Serpentine Genuine in this palette. I left it in this palette. It is a color that I love to use in my skies. It gives you that moody gray purple bruised kind of look that you need sometimes when you're looking for a shadow or an underside of a cloud. Perylene violet, it's a beautiful purpley color. Something that's a little bit different from when you're mixing your French ultramarine blue and your quinacridone rose. And alizarin crimson, pretty standard when you want a red color in your paintings. It's quite beautiful. And then a little bit of quinacridone orange, quinacridone deep gold. I have the quinacridone gold in this other palette, but I found that the deep gold is just another level of intensity sometimes that I'm looking for if I don't want to mix colors. And that's one beautiful thing about the Daniel Smith brand of colors, is that many of them are already mixtures of pigments for you. For example, the French ultramarine and the quinacridone rose, I think they have a paint color called Imperial Purple that probably is the mixture of those two colors. So these palettes are ideal for me. Any palette you get, pretty much, except for this style. This has permanent wells, and they're great for traveling and for smaller brushes. I don't mind these at all. But many palettes do have small pans, and they're generally maybe 3/4 of an inch by 1/2 an inch, or 3/4 by an inch maybe. I'm not sure how big the pans are. I don't tend to use them because my brushes just, don't fit in those small pieces, but they fit in these. But they pop out. I have this little tool that is just handy dandy, and I pop them out and fill them up. This one is called Indian Yellow, so it's another tone. It's a bit warmer than the Nickel Azo Yellow. So I think now, after thinking about what I was using and what I wasn't using, and how things were just there, and we do that often, right? We get sort of in a, and I've said before, I call it a groove. I don't call it a rut. It's a groove, and it becomes our comfort zone, and we coast along sometimes without even thinking about why or how things are going to work. So these are my new palette colors, and for the lovely viewer who asked that question, I will send, I will add a specific list of these colors in the description, and you see how you feel about them. I just wanted to show you quickly the reason for adding the Primateks Serpentine Genuine. It's greens are a color that baffle most artists. They're either too blue or they're too yellow. It's just a hard thing to do. When I put leaves on trees, I don't often do that, but when I do, I like to have a little variety. So I'm going to wet my palette quickly here and just show you how that might come together. Look at this beautiful Azo Yellow. It's it's going to help indicate sunlight reflecting and coming out on the surface of your leaves. With the Serpentine and perhaps a bit of undersea green, it will give us levels and help to add with that an indication of shading. I was going to pick up my Solo 3-line brush, but I think I'm going to switch, and I'm going to pick up my Ron Ranson hockey brush. And I'm probably not even going to wet it at this point because my palette is fairly wet. So I'm going to start with the dark green. So this is the undersea green. Hang on a second. I'm going to wet it because that green did not pick up the way I thought it was going to. I'm going to wet my brush, scruffle it out on the end, just tap the tip of it into the paint, just to get a little bit of a dark, and I probably could have had that paint a bit wetter, but that's all right. We will put that there. Just going to move that. These, while I'm at it, these blue towels that I have under my water vessels, I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're shop towels. Bought them at the local big box store, thinking they'd be handy dandy. They don't work well for art on the surface of your paper or your canvas or anything. They tend to pill up and fall apart a little bit, but they work well for under my water vessels. So now I've got a bit of dark, just a little mottled. And you can put this over top of a layer of other colors. So you got your dark. The next thing I would do is go in with the Serpentine. And it's going to give me, I just want to give it a bit more water. Just a bit of the Serpentine. And that's going to give me a brighter, just a little bit of a lighter, brighter. And because it's a mineral-based paint, it has a different texture, almost I don't want to say a glow, but a different level of how it reflects the light. And because I'm leaving bits of white of the paper, that also reflects the light, which adds life and beauty to your paintings. So this is just random, no rhyme or reason. And then I'm just going to add just a little bit of the gold. You don't need a lot. And then we scruff up the brush again. And then we'll just add a couple of, just on the tops where the highlights are. Now in a painting, that can be quite effective. It's going to take a few seconds here to dry. Now because I've used undersea green in that leaf formation, or bough formation, I suppose, and I probably will have used Mayan dark blue at some point in my painting, I will go to the Mayan dark blue and the undersea green and mix that just to make a beautiful dark. And when I mix colors, because my landscapes are sort of loose and flowy, I tend not to overmix them. I don't mind that a little bit of green, a little bit of blue will show up as things move along. And then you can go in and just indicate some branches. Change up the angles and the shapes a tiny bit. And there you have, you know, a lovely kind of multi-dimensional looking top of your tree. So I'm glad I switched things up. You know, the blue, the French ultramarine blue for a sky is going to be so pretty. See how lovely that is. The French ultramarine is a granulating color as well, so it does tend to sort of move around on its own on the page. A lot of the colors that I use, the Daniel Smith colors, are granulating, so you can see they're for a flat wash maybe not as effective, but I tend not to use flat washes in my painting. And it will lift, you know, you can lift out just as easily, make your cloud shapes. It'll go nicely with the dark Mayan dark blue for some shadows. So all of the colors in that palette, I'm quite confident because I tested them. I don't know what I did with my test piece of paper. I'd show you. where it went, but I tested all the colors together, and I'm not one generally for doing swatches, but you could certainly do that as well. The other palette is, yeah, it's got some luscious, rich, dark colors. Not quite as bright as this one. I'm glad I you know, took the time to think about this and have a look at how I want to paint and how my colors are going to be there and ready for me because I've updated my palette. So I hope that you spent some, that you do spend some time with your colors, with your palette, refining, finding out what works for you. You know, when I first started painting, I watched YouTube videos, and there were people with, you know, big palettes with 64 colors, and I thought that was the way to go. And it turns out that, you know, even these 10 colors sometimes are more than what I need in a painting. I try to stick to 3 or 4 maximum in a painting, so this gives me an option perhaps to do some experimenting, and in future videos I think that's what I'll do. I will pick 3 colors and see what we can come up with. So I hope you take a moment, take a look. What's in your palette? Let me know. Let me know if they're working for you, if you change things up. Maybe you found some things that you can share with the rest of us that will make our lives all that much brighter. I'd like to thank you all accomplices for being here today, watching as I belabored my palette, went through the process of the colors that I choose. For me, it's important. I'm glad that I was sort of inspired to step out of my comfort zone and change up my colors. I'm excited to see where these new choices are going to take me. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel or visit my website, bandrystudio.com. That's BANDRAOI studio.com, or head on over to our membership area. We'll have some fun things happening there, and I hope you'll weigh in and let us know what you'd like to see there.